Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. Yesterday, Xbox and Bethesda did a showcase for Starfield. It was an absolutely phenomenal presentation that put a lot of people's reservations about the game to bed. We haven't talked about Starfield at all on this channel, so I thought it was an opportunity to tell you what I like regarding what I've seen of the games thus far, and also a few things that are red flags for me personally and might prevent me from enjoying it. So let's go ahead and dive into my thoughts. Presentation starts with showing you all some of the different worlds that you'll be able to visit, and it's pretty obvious why. The level of detail put into the look, whether it comes to the landscape, the creatures, some of the different outposts or caves you'll be able to come across, or even the skyline and some of the stars and moons that are visible while you're running around on these planets. It's all just absolutely fantastic, very well done, and from the very start, all of this just screamed sci-fi. Really, really cool stuff. It's also really interesting to me the way they tailor this experience almost like you're an astronaut, and I'm not just talking about the suit, but also even when you go on your ship, they talk about the lo-fi or retro look of everything around you. You know, everything you see, it has a purpose, it looks well worn, it looks like you're using everything that is available to you, and it just gives a feel of an explorer who essentially has to survive by their wits and the resources at hand. It's really, really cool stuff, and again, just gives this game a very unique feel. The presentation showed off footage of huge sprawling cities that Bethesda has promised are chock full of quests and activities and conversations that you can get involved in. So really, really looked exciting. Me personally, I love large hubs in games, whether it be Novigrad in Witcher series or the Citadel in the first Mass Effect. Really, really loved having those type of areas in games. So this section was exciting for me and definitely makes me want to play the game. Character creation looks absolutely fantastic. So they have a lot of different options as far as how your face is going to look and hairstyles and things of that nature. But they also have backgrounds and traits, and these will give you unique abilities, and they can also come up in conversation. So they showed off footage of a beast hunter who entered into a conversation with an NPC, and then because you have that trait, you were able to select a dialogue option that would give you an additional quest. Love when you can do things in character creation that's more than just the aesthetics, that actually changes your gameplay experience in noticeable ways. Really cool stuff. They also said that there will be ways for you to change your traits over time. So you'll find ways in order to be able to lose specific traits in case you want to replace them with other ones. But they said you might have to discover how to get rid of these traits on your own. It seems like maybe each one will have a specific task that you need to do. Again, cool stuff. They did briefly go over skills, and obviously you'll have some combat skills like being able to use rifles and pistols and things of that nature. You'll also be able to fight barehanded if you want to, or specialize in explosives or stealth. So very, very cool stuff. They'll also have non-combat related skills. So there's an upgrade path for your backpack in case you like to hover around and shoot, a la Mass Effect Andromeda. There's also skills related to your ability to use your ship. They specifically showed off a skill regarding ship combat that allows you to target specific parts of an enemy ship. So really cool stuff. What's interesting to me is that the level up system, it's not just about XP. So essentially, when you get enough XP to choose a skill, you can select one level of it, but then there's a challenge that you need to complete. And you can't get the second rank until you complete that challenge. So basically, if I buy one level of rifles, it might have a challenge that says, hey, you need to kill 150 enemies using a rifle. And then once I've done that, and then I get enough XP, I'll be able to purchase the second rank. But it's not just about how often are you completing quests or doing tasks. So I thought that was actually really interesting, the way it's going to kind of reward you for your play style and what you're doing already, which kind of reminds me of Oblivion, but at least on paper, I think I like the way it's implemented here a little bit more. Circling back to combat, it looks really, really cool. Large variety of guns and different ways you can mod them. And one of the devs actually mentioned that they have more gun mods in this game than they have had in any other Bethesda game. Overall, combat definitely looks like a lot of fun. And since we're on the topic of combat, base combat looks like a lot of fun as well. So seems like while you're traveling around, there will be times where enemy ships will intercept you and you'll engage in combat. And they went over some of the mechanics that you have to use. You will have to manually manage how your power is distributed between the different things that your ship needs, like shields or weapons or warp drive if you decide that you want to try to flee, things of that nature. And so managing that while also figuring out how to directly attack your enemy ship is where the complexity in combat comes. I like the look of it. I like watching my ship being able to fire at other enemy ships and seeing space all around. I thought from an aesthetic standpoint, it was really nice. Is it nice in practice when you have to actually manage all that? And how does it scale as you go up against more powerful ships? I think all of that is the real question. And at this time, I'll say it looks nice enough where it's not going to be cumbersome for me. I'll figure it out because I just enjoy the aesthetic of these battle sequences. Also, like that they mentioned, you can essentially be a pirate who comes up on ships that are not even enemies and decides to board them, kill everybody on board, take everything that they have, and be just as evil and vicious as you want to be. Even though Bethesda has always allowed you to play with morality in whatever way you choose, it hadn't even occurred to me that you could really be an evil astronaut in this game. And so seeing that aspect of it was really nice. And I'm wondering, how far can you go from the standpoint of being just an absolutely dreadful person? Speaking of non-enemy ships, it's absolutely possible for you to come upon vessels that'll give you full quest lines or allow you to engage in conversations that you otherwise wouldn't have. So it seems like it's definitely worth taking the time to visit a ship when you see one. And it's cool to see that they've added ways for you to get additional content outside of just bouncing from planet to planet to planet. One last note about your ship, building it looks absolutely fantastic. Even though I've played all of Bethesda's Fallout games, to be honest with you, I was never one who put a ton of effort into building up the settlements. You know, when I would have a bunch of people in a particular area, I would make sure they all had housing, and then I'd put a bunch of turrets around, and then that was it. You know, I didn't go crazy with it the way other people did. The options that they showed for what you could do with your ship, man, I might actually spend some time on it. When that ship went up that looked like a damn Power Rangers robot, I almost fell out my seat. Like, it really does seem like the combinations are endless, and I'll definitely be playing around with that system. It's also really cool the way you can hire on people to work on your ship, and that your companions can serve functions on the ship as well. So it seems like as you build out more and more of the ship, you're going to need more and more people to get the full functionality out of it. And the galaxy is going to provide you with the resources that you need. In addition to being able to build out your ship, you can also build outposts on different worlds that you visit. And again, some of these other people that you hire as a crew can work at these different outposts. It's not clear yet what you get out of that, whether or not they can give you more resources or more money, or if you just do that for fun. Don't know how all that works, but it's just really cool that you have the option. And it almost seems like you can get to the point, feel like you're building up this empire across the galaxy. Like, I want to know, can I be an evil, vicious Sith Lord with, with stations all across the galaxy doing my bidding? I'm really curious how far you can take this. And then last on the list of things that I really like about the game thus far are the different faction groups. Since Fallout 3, I haven't really been impressed with the way that Bethesda has implemented factions in their games, but at least from the information provided here, it seems like they are varied and there's going to be a lot of different personalities for you to get introduced to. So I haven't seen anything that really turns me off. And in general, I like having different factions in games. It's a great way to explain more of the lore and gives you someone who could provide a totally different perspective on what's happening in the game. So for now, I'm looking at it as a positive. All right, so that pretty much wraps up the things that I like about the game, at least from what I've heard thus far. Let's get into some of the things that I don't particularly like. Starting with the obvious, the game just doesn't look all that great. It does look better than Skyrim and Fallout 3, but not by much. And by the time you've seen this video, you probably are already well aware that it's not going to run at 30 frames per second on the Xbox. That doesn't bother me a whole lot, but I gotta be honest with you. Look, I don't know anything about game development. I don't know anything about engine building, and I'm not gonna pretend that this is my forte. Just from a fan perspective, it's weird to me seeing all these developers on Twitter planting their flag on the hill that it's too much to ask for Bethesda to make these games look better. I'm not saying that it should be able to run 60 frames per second. Hey, maybe that's not a legitimate ask. But the idea that these games have to look this way and that it's just not possible for it to look better and be able to do what Starfield does, it just doesn't make sense to me. Considering the bucket loads of money that they have made essentially off the backs of their modding community. These modders are for the most part doing this for free, and they're the ones who are really making it profitable. And I just don't see how the money that Bethesda has gotten from all that free labor has been invested into an engine that delivers the game that I feel like their fans really deserve. I'm not really a Bethesda fanboy, so I don't put myself, in that same group of people who I feel like Bethesda should be doing a better job of serving. But for all those people who have been buying like every single version of Skyrim, I absolutely believe Starfield should look better than what it does. But it is what it is. It honestly grinds me that there's no intelligent alien life. And when I say intelligent, I mean alien life that we're able to actually have a conversation with. At least not from all of the footage that they provided. There are no aliens in the cities. All of the alien life that you see on other planets is basically animals or wildlife rushing to attack you. That seems odd to me. That seems so anti-sci-fi. And it's not that if you have a sci-fi property, it has to have aliens, right? I watched all of Battlestar Galactica and absolutely loved it. But this is a game about someone who's supposed to visit thousands of planets in an unexplored galaxy. It's really weird to me that there's no aliens in this type of experience. And I don't understand what is the reasoning behind that. And it's kind of disappointing for me because honestly, when Starfield was first announced, my immediate thought was, oh, Mass Effect 5. Andromeda was all messed up. So I'm finally going to get a real true next gen Mass Effect experience. But to me, at least from what I'm seeing, Starfield isn't going to do sci-fi nearly as well as what Mass Effect did. And the last reservation I have is the reservation I think is probably foremost in the minds of people who are still skeptical on this experience: the Radiant Worlds and Quest. Basically, the mechanic where when you land on a planet, it's going to procedurally generate everything that's going to be on that planet. And it's going to do that for hundreds of potential worlds. On paper, it almost gives this game an MMO feel. And the real question, I think, is going to be quest design. What is the quest structure going to feel like? Because in my mind, it's going to translate into you land on the world, you come across a cave, you go in the cave, and the guy's going to say, oh, I need such and such a thing. Go get it from such and such place over there and bring it back to me. You go over, you kill a bunch of guys, and you bring it back. And repeat that essentially 100, 200, 300, 400 times. To me, that's not great gaming. And it circles back to Bethesda basically leaning on their mod community because they're going to create all these worlds and then they'll let mods figure out how to make enjoyable quests on them. Which again, the true diehard Bethesda fans are probably perfectly okay with that. They're like, hey, this game will be a true game a year from now when the mods have finished combing through it. But for me personally, I plan to play it day one, so that doesn't really help me. And I'm hoping it's going to feel like a complete fleshed out experience from the first day that I get my hands on it. We will see. At the end of the day, I did really enjoy the showcase. I felt like it put to rest a lot of the questions regarding the game. I am looking forward to playing it. And honestly, I wasn't looking forward to playing it before this showcase occurred. So I guess it did its job. Hope all of you enjoyed this video. Take care.